What's up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. This week we're not starting a new series, but we're kind of talking about something that's important and something that's relevant that's going on in our world today. But we'll have a new series starting next week, so make sure to stay tuned for that. I believe that there is something around us now called the new normal. And we remember the way that things were before. We remember the old normal, the way things used to be. But now we're kind of in this new way of life, this new way that we have to live our lives. And we call that the new normal. And a lot of times, what we want to do is we want to go back to the way things were. Some of us would even go to school if it meant that we could go back to the way everything was. Because it feels like our summer has been so different. It feels like that our lives are just so different. But I want to talk to you today about how the new normal actually can be beneficial. It actually can be better than the way that things used to be. But we just kind of have to look for the right things. I believe that we have to ask the questions, what have I learned? And what do I want to carry forward? I believe that those two questions will help us better understand ourselves and will help us better understand how we want to live in this new normal. See, something that you know is that when something comes up, when a problem arises, and that threat of the problem is withdrawn just for a moment, when the issue is taken back for just a moment, we let our guard down. And we kind of go back to the way we used to live. Even if we are completely sold out that we need to live differently, we go back to our old ways because that's what's comfortable. But I want to challenge you this week to note the things that you find comfortable and try to live outside of that comfort. See, I'm going to be honest with you. When the beginning of this pandemic happened, I noticed that I lacked some empathy for other people. It's not that I didn't care about other people and how they would be affected. I just knew that I wasn't going to be as affected as many other people would be. And that kind of made me think that I shouldn't really care as much. But that's not the way you should act. And I'm glad that I learned very quickly that that was wrong, that that was a problem in me. I got to change that because Christ calls me to care for my brother and my sister and my neighbor. That's what Christ calls me to do. And 2 Corinthians 5:17 says this, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come, the old has gone, the new is here." And we know that Jesus calls us to embrace the new. Jesus calls us to embrace the new life that he brings. And yes, it may be comfortable to go back to the way things were, but that's not necessarily the good thing. That's not the best thing that we can do. The best thing that we can do is embrace the new life in Jesus. And Joshua 1:9 says this, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." The truth is that even with God on our side, we tend to move back to the things that are more familiar to us. We tend to move back to the things that are more familiar. The main point of this message today is to tell you that we're told to embrace the new normal. And maybe you've noticed that your grandparents or your parents or even you have kind of fought back on that a little bit. You don't want to go to a new way of life. You want to live like you've been living, or they want to live like they've been living. But what's familiar is not always the best thing. The things that are familiar to us are not always the best thing. And we know that because there are addictions, there are habits, there are relationships. There are things that are familiar to us, but they're not good for us. And so as we move forward, as we learn to live in this new normal, I want you to ask yourself these two questions. What have I learned? And what do I want to carry forward? And maybe you can be someone who encourages your parents to ask themselves those questions. Or you ask your grandparents those questions. What have I learned? And what do I want to carry forward? Because it's ultimately up to you how you're going to live your life. It's not up to your parents. It's not up to your grandparents. It's not up to your teachers or any of your role models. It is up to you how you are going to live your life. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys back here next week with a new series, and I hope you enjoyed this one. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to leave a comment if you have any suggestions for me. And follow the socials. Those things are all linked in the description. See you guys next week. Bye.